Welcome to Presidential Experience Live, uncut and unscripted. I am Kanae Corder, National Certified Counselor and the world's #1 clinical hypnotherapist specializing in financial therapy and stress management. I am recording this podcast episode blindly, like just in the dark. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about right now. I am reaching into the future, asking what you need to hear. And the reason why I say in the future, because by the time you listen to this, it will be the future. So time management is coming up because I just talked about the future. And then boundaries, that's coming up too. A little bit of money. All three of those could be stressful, right? We get so stressed out. Our mental health is completely affected by our time management or the lack thereof. Our triggers, we're often triggered by boundaries, right? Or when people don't respect our boundaries, I should say. And then money. We can talk about that all day, all week. Is the subject that I love, and you know it. So I'll reserve it. I'll reserve it for a longer episode. Today, let's talk about love. That just came up. I think that goes along with boundaries. All right, boundaries it is. Thank you. Appreciate you having this conversation with me and working this out. Now I know that what we're working on. So it's almost like, this is a therapy session, because that's kind of how a therapy session goes. So when it comes to your boundaries, do you know what they are? Like, are you good at setting boundaries? I wasn't always great at setting boundaries, and I wasn't always good at respecting boundaries. I was like all in people's business, even as an intuitive, like how I just did what I just did a second ago. I could do that in front of a person, and sometimes I can see more than they're showing me, and then they might not want to know that I see that, but I would tell them, like, let me tell you what I see, and then I'm like, blah, and then they're like, whoa, because first of all, they might not even see it, so I'm preemptive, and then a week or a year from that moment, they see it, and then it's like, that's what she was talking about. So I've learned to ask for permission. Okay, so I'm seeing something. I'm wondering if it's okay if I share it with you. And then they can say, no, don't be all up in my business. I don't want to know what you see. Or they can say, sure. Now, most times people say, sure, share it, because people are curious. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they still wanted to hear what I'm going to say, but at least I asked for permission. I learned, and I only learned that 2 years ago, and I've been doing this work for a while, and I've been seeing into people all my life. But as a therapist, sometimes you can see things that people don't see, and it just might not be time. Where are your boundaries? Do you know? I want to look at this from two angles. One is knowing your own boundaries. The other is knowing other people's boundaries. Do you know other people's boundaries? Do you respect them? Do you gossip and tell other people's business? Because that's kind of not respecting their boundaries. And it's funny because gossip seems so in the past to me. I was never really a gossiper, but now the people, my circle, the people around me, very few of them gossip. I'm not even that aware of gossip and what it looks like, but I do know it still exists. If you are a reality TV watcher, then maybe you have some sense of boundaries being crossed, because that happens a lot on reality TV. The producers are notorious for inducing boundary crossing events. That's something new I'm going to start saying. That was a boundary crossing event, a BCE, a boundary crossing event. Ooh, I think I like that. Do you? We should start using it. So let's talk about these boundary crossing events. They usually trigger us. So what can we do? Okay, first start with when someone crosses your boundaries. So say it's your mother, because that's the person that can cross some boundaries, boy. Let's say your mother crosses your boundaries. Maybe she wants to pick the person you date. Maybe she doesn't want you to do something at your own house or with your own children. Yeah. So what do you do when you're triggered? I always lean towards first awareness, just going within and just noticing I'm being triggered. Mom is triggering me again. Okay, all right, all right. Do I have to be triggered by mom? No, I don't have to be. Am I choosing in this moment? Yes, because I don't feel like I have a lot of control over this. Like she just takes me down that road. Okay, all right. What road would you like her to take you down? What would you like her to say? I like her to say, you're such a great parent. I know you'll figure this out. Or, my grandson is awesome. You've done such a great job raising him. Just something simple like that. Okay, so we're realistic. She didn't say that. And we're back to reality now. No more fantasy. And so in this moment, you notice that you're triggered. And let me tell you, just by noticing that you're triggered will lower that triggers because you notice. And how much power do you want your mom to have over you? Yeah. All right. So how much power would you like to have over yourself? Okay. So I'm just gonna say, what part of this do I control? You don't control what comes out of mother's mouth. Nope. But you do control how you react to what comes out of mother's mouth. So what if you could just, without upsetting her, like without trying to upset her, because there are words you can say. There are words you can say to upset somebody purposely because it's your mom, you know her well. So what if you could just say, that's not the way I'm going to handle it. Thanks for your advice. I have something else. And she's probably going to keep going and going and going. And you can just let her know, no, I'm good. No, thank you. Thank you. I'm good. No, I'm good. No, you're all over here in mine. You raised your kid. So the kid you raised, if you trust that you raised your kid well, then the kid you raised can raise their kid well. Wouldn't you think? Yeah, that's a conversation for you. And it might spark a conversation, but the conversation doesn't need to happen during the boundary crossing event. Later, you can say, outside of this, and yes, will it trigger her? Absolutely, it will. But you'll plant a seed and you'll give her time to think about it because your mom is not in therapy. This is what I tell every patient. Your mom is not in therapy. You are. So you will have to do more of the changing and she would have to live through your example. So your mom is not in therapy. So lead your mother down this road, this new road. You don't have to go down the same road, but you'll have to first just take a stop because there's a fork in the road, right? And you guys usually go down the left side. You'll just take the pause, let her go down the left side, but you don't go anywhere. Don't follow her down there. Then you can go down the right side and she's going to say, hey, get over here. And this is me, an analogy. Get over here, get on this side where we always go. And then you can find yourself back at the fork, but don't go down that left side. Go back to the fork so you might be able to communicate with her. And then you go right back down the right side. The fork in the road still exists. You can choose the other side. And eventually she'll come to the middle, back to the fork. And over time, she'll end up going down the right side. It does take time. Think of it like growing a plant or herb or a tree. You plant the seed, you water it. Sunlight needs to get in there. The soil needs to be just right. And eventually it blooms, but it takes time. So that's what happens when somebody crosses your boundaries. So what happens when you cross somebody else's boundary? Maybe you can pause, notice what you did, giving some grace in this moment. It's warranted. Just notice, I think I've triggered this person. I've crossed their boundaries and they don't know how to push me back on the other side. And so you might not know how to get on the other side either. So you're just going to notice, okay? Notice, I see myself crossing the boundary. I'm not happy with this boundary I've crossed. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be this boundary crosser. You see the person is triggered. Maybe they're triggered and they didn't handle it the way you handled it with your mom. They're going off or whatever. You always try to tell me what to do. Maybe it's your sibling. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your child. 'Cause yeah, your children have boundaries. And as they get older, those boundaries get more and more clear to them. Maybe not to you. Then you start saying things and you're like, oh my gosh, my mom said this to me. So the same boundaries that are crossed for us, we cross with other people, usually. So just think about it. And the only thing I want you to do is just pause. When you've crossed somebody's boundary, just pause. Because they're going to kind of give you direction on what to do next. And become present. Become really present. Because let me tell you, they are not. They are in the first time that boundary got crossed. They are in a whole nother time zone. They have been taken back to the past. And all they know is that they are not comfortable. They don't realize that they've gotten shipped back to the past the first time that boundary got crossed. But that's what happened. So go ahead. Notice when you cross boundaries. Go ahead and give yourself permission to just observe. Give yourself permission to be in the moment. Give yourself permission to say, okay, that's okay. That's okay. Even if it was your mistake, it's still okay. And you can move on. How does that sound? Good. So if you have more questions, if you want more, if you want to go deeper, let me know. Just send me an email. Yeah, just send me an email at podcast@presidentiallifestyle.com. In the meantime, I will see you sooner. And tomorrow, I'll do my best to get you an episode, but I'm not 100% sure. And Monday is a holiday. So maybe I'll see you on Tuesday if I don't see you tomorrow. Alrighty? In the meantime, have a prosperous day, my prosperos. And don't have any boundary crossing events. If you do, go to presidentiallifestyle.com and check us out. Maybe there's a resource, something there that can help you. All right. I'll see you sooner.